This is Rabbi Sachs coming to you from the Chai Center. Welcome to the Chai Academy. We have been discussing over the past few weeks modern day Israel. We've gone through some of the highs, some of the lows. We have gone through some of the scandals, um, just some of the miracles, etc. So today's class is billed as the assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. So what's interesting to note is that the last before Yitzhak Rabin, he was assassinated in 1995, the time prior to that, a leader of Israel was assassinated was 586 BCE. We're talking about, I don't know, over 2,500 years. Over 2,500 years was the last time a leader, a prime minister, a governor of Israel was assassinated. So the fact that it happened is pretty wild, that Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated. The time before that was Gedaliah, right? So the Jewish people, Judah, had tried to rebel against the Babylonians. They wanted to remove the yoke from the Babylonians, and they failed. So the Babylonians appointed Gedaliah. Now Gedaliah was a righteous man, but he was the governor, and his job was to be the intermediary, collect the taxes from the Jews and give it to the Babylonians. And so the Babylonians gave the Jews some autonomy, and Gedaliah was the head of the Jews. Now, not everybody was happy with his plan. There were many Jews who wanted the Babylonians gone from their lives, and they felt that Gedaliah was a lackey for the Babylonians. So there was this fellow by the name of Ishmael, and he assassinated. And they say Gedaliah knew that he was in trouble. They say that Gedaliah knew that he was at risk of being murdered, and he was. And the day he was murdered, Gedaliah was murdered by a fellow Jew, which led, by the way, to a lot of trouble, because the Babylonians viewed it as we put in a governor and you killed our governor. So, but the day he was murdered is called Tzom Gedaliah, the fast of Gedaliah. It takes place the day after Rosh Hashanah. So we don't fast on Rosh Hashanah, so the day after Rosh Hashanah, and it is a fast day. And we've been holding this fast day now for over 2,500 years. So when Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated, it was a huge thing. It was no small feat. It was no small thing. So and it was for similar reasons. So Gedaliah was considered to be a lackey and a traitor to the Jewish people. So on 11/4/1995, Yigal Amir, a Jewish law student who was a student at the I think it was in the Bar Ilan, but so he was part of the Hester. Hester is an interesting thing. It's an Orthodox yeshiva that you're there for 5 years or 6 years, and if you're there for 5 years, then like 12 months or 14 months is spent in the army. The rest of the time is you're studying in yeshiva. Or if you're there for 6 years, then it's 24 months you're in the army. So it's a combination of army and yeshiva, which is a brilliant idea. You get both. So he was an Orthodox Jew, and curly hair of Moroccan or Yemenite descent, and he viewed Yitzhak Rabin as a lackey, as a lackey for Arafat, and a traitor to the Jewish cause. So basically what happened, it was after the Oslo Accords. The Oslo Accords, obviously Oslo was in Norway, and there was the discussions about what to do about Israel, and Yitzhak Rabin flew there, and Israel rather flew there together with the Palestinians, together with other peacekeepers, and the United States was involved. And basically, what came out of the Oslo Accords was as follows: Israel will acknowledge PLO and Arafat at its helm to be representatives of the Palestinian people. Up until that point, Arafat was a terrorist, PLO was a terrorist organization, and had no credibility, and had no gushpanka, they had no platform, and it was the Oslo Accords that finally made Arafat a statesman, and that he was to negotiate on behalf of the Palestinians during the Oslo Accords. So that was a hurdle. That was a hurdle. In turn, by the way, Arafat had to recognize Israel, which he did in English. He never did it in Arabic. So at the Oslo Accords, the Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin agreed to give back Gaza, the Gaza Strip, and the city of Jericho, to give it that you're no longer under Israel, but you have a right to self-determination and complete autonomy. And if this worked out, then more territory, more land would be given to the Palestinians. Now, Rabin was part of the Israel left. The Israel right were aghast, and they said, "You are giving historical land. You're giving it back you're taking it away from the Jewish people." And Jericho has always been part, right? Jericho has always been Jericho. That was the first city conquered by Joshua, and you're giving that back to the Palestinians. You're giving that away to the Palestinians, and it was right versus left, and it was a culture war, not unlike of what's going on in the United States. That there's a culture war, and you have Democrat, Republicans. So you had Likud versus Marach. The Likud was considered the conservative party, and aligned with the far right, and the Labour Party, which Rabin, that was aligned with the left and the far left. So once Rabin started to talk about giving back land, the far right went on a campaign of delegitimization, right? And basically saying Rabin is a traitor to Israel. And there's even Netanyahu, by the way. Even Netanyahu, when he led marches, he wasn't the prime minister, and he wasn't going to be prime minister for a while. But he led marches against Rabin as a traitor, and he was asked. Netanyahu was asked to drop the rhetoric, traitor. It's a harsh word, and he said, "No, I believe firmly that he's a traitor to the Jewish people." And then they had marches, continued marches. The right had marches against Rabin, against giving back land. And Jews, by the way, always make this mistake, and I can't stand it. They had posters and effigies of Rabin in a Nazi costume, and they had signs that Rabin is Hitler, which is disgusting. It delegitimizes Hitler. That's what it does. It legitimizes Hitler. It delegitimizes Rabin, but it correlates Rabin to Hitler. My goodness, Hitler killed 6 million, and I see this, by the way. I'm a voyeur on Facebook, and I see it. I see Jews that I know. They say, okay, Adolf Trump, right? Trump is the new Hitler. How dare you? How dare you? Do you have no concern and compassion for the Jews that suffered under Hitler? right? 6 million in the gas chambers, that you so lightly can say that Trump is a Hitler. Disgusting, revolting. I have absolutely nothing good to say about it, and I know you, and I'm telling you now that this is an error in judgment, and you're off base, and it needs to stop. So, but back then they did the same thing. Rabin is Hitler. So you understand, it sickens your gut to hear Rabin is Hitler. It should sicken your gut to say Trump is Hitler. Whether you like him or hate him, he's no Hitler. Use another term. Figure out another thing to say. So this led to the eventual assassination, because it was so delegitimized and it was such rhetoric that that what happened was there was this culture war, and the right were marching, do not give back land, and the left were marching, peace now, and give back land, we have to stop the wars, etc. The right were marching that giving back land will never stop the wars, it would just bring them in closer, and they were proven right to an extent. And the left was saying that if we don't make peace, we'll never have peace, so we have to risk it. So it was one such peace rally organized by the left, which was attended by Shimon Peres, and Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, two icons in the Israeli politics. So there was a huge rally, and after the rally, Peres left a little bit earlier than Rabin. Rabin was being escorted to his car, and you had Yigal Amir, who he took out his gun, and it was a semi-automatic, I believe, and he managed to get off 2 shots into Rabin's body. As soon as he got off these 2 shots in quick succession, he was jumped by the bodyguards, who they brought him down. But as they brought him down, he managed to get off a 3rd shot into one of Rabin's bodyguards, whose name was Rabin, and he lightly wounded him. So Yigal Amir was immediately brought down, and he was immediately dragged off and arrested, and he was brought into the police department, of the police headquarters, located in Tel Aviv, not too far from where the assassination took place. Now, Rabin, as they were dragging Yigal Amir, they were dragging Rabin. Rabin's body was lifeless, albeit he was alive, and Yoram, together with others, even though Yoram was wounded, managed to get Rabin into the car, and to drive to the hospital not far away. They tell a tale that the driver of the car, he was so confused and so shocked by the shooting, is that he actually never managed to make it to the hospital himself. He lost his way. It was only 2 blocks. But he lost his way into the hospital by being in total shock. Eventually, when they were going in circles, they couldn't find the way to the hospital. Eventually, they stopped, and they dragged a cop in, and they said to this policeman, the Israeli policeman, "Get us to the hospital. We don't know where it is. We have no idea where we are." So the cop managed to get them to the hospital. Rabin was taken immediately into surgery, and all the while, Rabin initially was conscious, and so they brought him into surgery, and they thought he would survive. They said that what we need to do is, in order to get, being that the power seat has been moved now from the Knesset in Jerusalem to the hospital in Tel Aviv. So let's get all the power body. Let's get everything we need to set up as the head, the Prime Minister's office in the Tel Aviv hospital. And because Rabin is going to have surgery, he's going to come out, he's going to need to be in hospital for a while. So they managed to sustain Rabin, and they managed to get a heartbeat for a short time, and then they lost, and it seems like that both of Rabin's lungs, the first bullet hit the one lung, the second bullet hit the second lung, and Yitzhak Rabin, they lost him. Eventually he passed. Later on, upon different scans they did, that he had a massive embolism in his brain, and there's no way he could have survived. And Yitzhak Rabin died a couple of hours after he was shot. In the interrogation room of Yigal Amir, they told him that you're now going to be tried for murder because Yitzhak Rabin has died from his wounds. To which at that point, Yigal Amir said, "Can you please give me some alcohol, some schnapps, because I wish to say l'chaim and celebrate." That's how bad the climate was, that he was happy that Rabin died, Rabin the traitor died. How sad and how sick. Now, so he never had any remorse, and he told them that Yitzhak Rabin was a traitor, and he had to be punished under the Jewish law called Rodef. Now, there were rumors that he was told by rabbis that Yitzhak Rabin was to be punished, that he was allowed to be killed under the Rodef rule. But those are rumors, but Yigal Amir did say that he needed to be punished under Rodef. What is the Rodef rule? So it's interesting. The Rodef law is you're allowed to murder someone extrajudiciously. In other words, not in a court, but you're allowed to murder somebody if they're a Rodef, if they're a pursuer, if they seek your death. So if somebody is chasing after you, somebody's chasing after somebody, and they have a knife, they have a gun, and you have an opportunity to bring down this gunman, this knife-wielding, insane individual, you can kill him, and you will not be held accountable. That is the Rodef law. So Yigal Amir, in his mind, and I guess this is all part of what was discussed in the right-wing circles, is that being that Yitzhak Rabin was going to kill many by giving back land, and many Jews were going to be killed, so therefore you're allowed to kill him. So that essentially, now, were they right, were they wrong? Essentially, if you think about it, the Rodef law, the Rodef halacha, the Rodef clause is really, it only refers to an individual. Because if you want to say that Yitzhak Rabin was punished by death under the Rodef law, then you would be able to murder anybody in the Knesset who is Marach, who's on the left. You would have to murder them as well. So individual murderer, we get it. Individual, somebody who's trying to kill lives, we get, but not when it refers to the public. Yitzhak Rabin wasn't an individual. He was the Prime Minister of Israel. And as a Prime Minister, and even if he wasn't Prime Minister, he was a member of Knesset, you also wouldn't be allowed to bring him down. I mean, the Rodef law does not really apply, or it's dubious whether it applies. I think also the Rodef law would it have to be an immediate murder, not something that may or may not happen over the course of time. So, and it was unclear whether he was told to by a rabbi. Rumors were that it was, but there was no concrete proof that any rabbi told him that, Yigal, yes, you're allowed to kill Rabin. At least, I hope no rabbi told him that. 2 days later, there was the funeral, and 80 heads of state attended that funeral, and including Prime Minister Bill Clinton. In his famous words, he said, "Shalom, Chaver," "Shalom, my friend." Hussein was there from Jordan. King Hussein came from Jordan. He was there at the funeral and spoke, and so did Hosni Mubarak from Egypt. He also came, and he delivered a eulogy as well. And there were 80 heads of state from different countries, etc. They were there in attendance, and at the funeral. It was an absolute day of mourning, and it led into months of mourning, because you know what the feeling was? It was after, like when JFK was killed, there was this national mourning. When Yitzhak Rabin was killed, once again, the first time a leader was killed in over 2,500 years, it was also considered a national mourning. The trial came, and it was determined that Yigal Amir acted alone, that he wasn't part of some group that was determined to kill the prime minister, and he was sentenced to life in prison, plus 6 years for the wounding of Yoram Rubin, the bodyguard. Now, in Israel, there's a custom. Whenever somebody's sentenced to life in prison, the president of Israel immediately says, "I hereby commute his sentence to 20 years, 30 years." So it's never life. The president did not commute his sentence to 20 or 30 years, but that rather remained a life sentence. And a law was passed in the Knesset shortly thereafter that if anybody's ever convicted again of killing a prime minister, they shall have life sentence, and the president may not commute his sentence to 20 to 30 years. So he was sentenced to life imprisonment plus 6 years. As soon as he was arrested, the Shin Bet, the equivalent of the FBI, went to his home and arrested his brother, and also arrested a friend who they believe were this band of thieves. They were accomplices to the killing of Yitzhak Rabin. They knew about it and they didn't stop it, etc. So Haggai Amir, the brother, was given 12 years. On appeal, talk about bad luck. On appeal, he was given another 6 years. So, on appeal, he was given another 4 years. So then a total of 16 years. He has since been released. In 2012, he was released from prison. The other accomplice, the friend, his name was Adani or something like that, he was given 7 years, and he was released on 2002. And Amir is still in prison, he may be a hero to the fringe, but he's no hero to most. Once it's sunk in that he was killed, I think the extreme right realized what they had done, and the right realized that this is just a terrible thing that happened. There was a commission. Investigative commission, to find out, was this, what was this, a plot, was etc. And the Shin Bet had this commission, and the Shin Bet determined that the commission determined that Shin Bet, right, which is equivalent to the FBI or the Secret Service, etc., that they did the wrong thing. They had threats. They should either have never let Rabin speak, or even though Rabin did not want to wear a bulletproof vest, they should have said, no bulletproof vest, no speaking. If he would have had his bulletproof vest, the 2 bullets would have caused him pain, but not caused him death. So that's what the commission. That's what the commission. They put some blame at the foot of the Shin Bet for allowing him to speak when there was viable threats. Now, as soon as Rabin died, just like they do in the United States, when President Kennedy was shot, so President Johnson immediately took the oath of office. So too Yitzhak Perez. Um, I'm sorry, Shimon Peres took the oath of office, and he immediately became the prime minister. And he became the prime minister to fill the rest of Rabin's term. And Shimon Peres, if the right thought that Yitzhak Rabin was a dove, Shimon Peres was equal as a dove, if not more. And thus concludes the tale of Rabin's assassination. Now, the parallels with what's going on lately with this, with Trump and Biden and Antifa and QAnon and this nonsense is that unfortunately, when the fringe elements get too vocal, when the fringe elements get too they're given too much of a platform, it's never good. We learn this from Rabin's assassination, and we learn this from the riots in the summer. I'm not talking about the protests, but the riots in the summer, and which I have no problem with peaceful protests. I personally attended 2 peaceful protests, but the riots, and then of course the what happened on the call insurrection, or the riot that took place January 6th in the Capitol. Fringe is never good. Fringe is only creates havoc. Shalom. This is Rabbi Sachs. Any questions? Rabbi at thechaicenter.com, or here, if you would like to see any previous episodes of and there's hundreds now, you can go to thechaicenter.com /academy.